for joining in. And this is our third webinar in Infertility Update, and it is going to happen on every 20th of every month. And thanks to Shada ma'am, because she's the all behind this, and all credit to her ma'am only, that because of her we started on doing this Infertility Update. And today is a very special day because so many learned experts are there, so many you can say stalwarts, and there's no word to explain all the teachers which we are going to hear today. The speakers are Dr. Sharma and Dr. Sonia ma'am, and I'll first of all invite Shada ma'am only to start on this session and give her few lines for Dr. Sharma sir. So welcome to you, Shada ma'am, and handing over to you to start off this session.
I think it's a great welcome to everybody who is here as a faculty and the people who are watching it. The credit goes not to me, the credit goes to Dr. Sharma, who is the chairman of the Infertility and IVF Committee of Delhi Gynecologist Forum. And with his blessings, he has not only trained hundreds of people, but Delhi Gynecologist Forum's many people who are IVF experts now have been trained by him. And with his promise that he will be there for all the meetings, and in 50% of the meeting, he is going to part with his pearls of wisdom, which is going to be there. Today it's especially a great day because it is a happiness day. And I think, you know, whether it is Dr. Sharma, whether it's Dr. Madam Tarini Taneja, or whether myself, I think all of us are very happy people. We are happy for no reason. And I think that's the beauty of it. Today, as far as Brigadier Sharma is concerned, I find him, I have only two words to say. He's guru of all gurus as far as IVF is concerned. And secondly, he's decorated. I don't have to really speak on his credentials and things like that. He's absolutely decorated, right from the President Medal to anything. Rest is petty for him. And the stage which he has gone, he does not require enumeration of all those awards and things like that. Today he's going to talk on the subject which is very rarely talked about, that is oats. I think this is the third presentation where I'm hearing Dr. Sharma over a period of last 15 years. So I think we will be delighted if Dr. Sharma takes over. First, he comments why I call him a happy man, and secondly, he starts with things. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon to everybody. The happiness comes when we have good friends, we have good mentors. So we have good friends, and Dr. Shada madam is mentored to so many people. And I always say, if she was in army, she would have been selected as an army chief by now. She's a big leader, and it is always a pleasure to interact with her and learn from her. Today I am going to speak on oligoasthenoteratozoospermia. Now we know that the male contributes almost...
My request to everybody, please mute yourself. Mute yourself.
The host has disabled the participant screen sharing. I would request the host to please enable it. Because otherwise I can't show the slides.
Screen sharing kar dijiye.
I'll just share a few experiences in my life of the male infertility. There were two very interesting cases which I remember. The one fellow, he was having a very poor semen quality, quantity, morphology, everything was abnormal. And, you know, he has taken treatment at various places. But however, he was never examined by anyone. I said, okay, let me see what is the reason for your poor semen quality. When I examined him, I found that his scrotal walls were so thick and leathery. And I asked him, are you having severe itching? So he says, yes, I keep on itching the whole day. So, and since he was a soldier and working in the hot and humid environment, he was having a fungal infection of the scrotum, and because of constant itching, the skin had become so thick. So with the result, the local temperature, which is otherwise supposed to be 1 degree lower than the body temperature, so it was very warm scrotum. So with the result, his count was less. So I just treated him with antifungal and local antifungal treatment, and his semen became normal. So this is an important thing that we should examine a male, especially if he's having constant itching and all over the scrotum, which can cause, because of the constant itching, thickening of the scrotal wall, increasing the local temperature and decreasing the sperm count and morphology. The second one was a case where, he was told by somebody that more frequently he does, the earlier his wife will become pregnant. And he was a poor, simple soldier. And I was just taking the history about his, private life. So I asked him how many times in a day you perform. He says, Saab, I do it 6 times in a day. I said, 6 times in a day? He says, yes, because in the night I'm on duty. So otherwise he would have done in the night also. So the frequent masturbation or frequent, sexual activity definitely will dilute the sperms. With the result, you may get a feeling as if he's having oligospermia, but actually once you stop that, you find that his semen parameters are normal and the wife became pregnant very fast after that. So this is a very important to take a proper sexual history and a local examination of a male, which most of the time may not be possible for a female gynecologist. So they should have some andrologist attached with them. Whenever the semen parameters are normal, the person should be examined and taken the history properly. So today I'm going to talk about oligosteroteratozoospermia. Can everybody hear that? Dr. Archana, can you hear? Dr. Seema madam, can you hear?
Yes, sir, we can hear. We can hear.
Okay.
Yes,
Now there are
the slides are also visible.
Yeah, there are 3 main parameters in the semen. One is the number of sperms. Second is the quality of the movement of the sperms, because after having been ejaculated, they have to travel almost 6 inches up to the cervix, from cervix to the ischemic part of the fallopian tube to fertilize the egg over there. And the third is the morphology. Basically, the morphology also is, it determines the chromosomal structure of the sperm. If there is a chromosomal abnormality, the morphology of the sperm would be affected. The spermatogenesis, which depends on the normality of the chromosome, will be affected, so the person may have abnormal shaped sperms. So out of these 3, the count, the movement, and teratozoospermia, if you have to say the person cannot afford any treatment, and you have to say, okay, out of these, which is the most important, if that is okay, I can allow them to have even naturally, especially in a young couple, is the motility. Even if the count is less, even if the morphology is not 100%, as per the expected, more than 4% by the Kruger's criteria, if the motility is good, you can still allow the patient to have a natural intercourse, especially if there is no female factor, or if there is, other parameters and normatives are open. Having said that, whenever the number is less, we call it a oligozoospermia. The numbers over the years by WHO, the normality has come down to less than 15 million. Is less. We say, okay, it is less than the normal, so it's oligospermia. The motility, the both active motility and the forward motility, if it is there, more than 50% is say, okay, normal. If it is less, we may say that it is actinozoospermia, that is a slow movement. And if by the Kruger's criteria, if the count, the shape of the sperms, if it is more than 4% abnormal, we may call it a teratozoospermia. Many times, the patient may have the problems individually in all these 3, or may have all the three together. And when all the three are normal, we call it a oligoacinoteratozoospermia, which is a cause of a subfertility, in many cases, the male factor infertility. Now, if you see the individual factors, the motility may be affected in 39% of cases. Oligospermia, the count may be affected in 10% of the cases. Morphology may be affected individually in 8% of cases. But all the three parameters may be affected in 43% of the cases. So that means most of the time, all the parameters get affected together, whatever is the cause of the male factor infertility. So what are the causes of oligoacinoteratozoospermia? It could be because the patient may be taking medicines. Now because of this bodybuilding, the boys are taking steroids, or the young boys are having severe hypertension, taking anti-hypertensive drugs, or there's a history of some cancer, anti-cancer drugs. The depression is rampant now, and the doctors are providing them antidepressant instead of telling them to do other normal, exercise, yoga and all, which can help them in the depression. The antidepressant drugs which they are taking. It could be also because of the genetics, especially the translocations, which can cause these abnormalities, or Klinefelter syndrome, abnormal hormones levels, anti-sperm antibodies, especially after the injury to the testes. When the testicular blood barrier is broken, the anti-sperm antibodies may develop. So one should take a history of such a nature in the childhood if we had any testicular injury, especially, cycling is the commonest cause of scrotal injury. Or there is a history of orchitis, or it could be a history of mumps and then followed by that orchitis, infection of the male reproductive system, the sexually transmitted infections, the lifestyle, which is, all of you know, it is getting more and more abnormal. We have started living abnormally, sleeping late hours, getting up late in the morning, smoking, drinking, alcohol, and illegal drugs. The varicocele, these are some of the common causes for oligoacinoteratozoospermia. So whenever a patient has got the semen parameters, especially on two consecutive semen samples, at least 2 to 3 months apart, the same abnormalities are coming, so we should take the history. Now, age, earlier we thought that the male's fertility is not affected because of the age, but it is not true. The semen volume may decrease from 3 to 30% from age 30 to 50 years. The concentration may not change, but the motility would decrease from 3 to 37% in the age group of 30 to 50. The morphology gets affected also from 4 to 22% from age 30 to 50. And the compounded by the age, there is a decreasing trend of pregnancy rate of less than 38%, between 30 to 50. So the male age is also very important as far as the fertility potential is concerned. It affects the various parameters from the volume of semen to the motility, the morphology, and the pregnancy rate. The occupation history is very important because some of them may be working in a hot, humid environment, and the increase in the scrotal temperature is an important factor for decrease in the sperm count and motility. Obesity, which is becoming more and more rampant, increases the local temperature and also increases the estrogen levels. So the testicular estrogen level ratio is affected, and this may affect the semenology. That smoking, alcohol, drug abuse I mentioned earlier, and exposure to the environmental toxins. Now this has become a big problem now, especially in the cities, where the water is polluted, where the food is polluted, and there is adulteration in the food. So these various toxins like DDT, etc., are affecting the semenology of the male. We should also take the medical history of the male factor. So the medical history of diabetes mellitus, especially of a long-standing hypertension, pituitary dysfunction, tuberculosis, inflammatory bowel disease, thyroid disorder, hypervolemia, respiratory diseases like chronic respiratory tract infection or bronchitis, parasitic disorders, family history of cystic fibrosis. A recent history of fever is very important because the effect will be seen up to 3 months after the fever or the illness. So all these histories are very important to be taken from the male factor infertility. The urinary tract. Yeah, please mute.
Please mute yourself. Everyone, they said
the past is sexually transmitted infection, mumps. All these may affect the semenology. Then there are some medications that can affect methotrexate and repeated nitrofurantoin or the chemotherapeutic agents, testosterone injections nowadays. To build up the muscle mass, the boys are taking the testosterone injections. Right? Even the urologists, they may give the testosterone injections to increase the potency of the male. Seema madam, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Impaired spermatogenesis can be due to sulfasalazine, methotrexate, nitrofurantoin or the chemotherapeutic agents, the testosterone injections, and the GnRH analogs, anti-androgens like cimetidine and spironolactone. The male can have ejaculatory dysfunction because of alpha blockers, antidepressant, and phenothiazine. Erectile dysfunction because of beta blocker, thiazides, and metoclopramide, and the various drugs like cannabis, heroin, cocaine. Nowadays, you find a lot of hookah centers which are there. They will contribute to the male factor infertility in times to come. Then there's an importance of history of previous surgery of vasectomy. The vasectomy, if it is reversed early, it is beneficial. But if it is done after 10 years of reversal, you may find the spermatology, the semenology may not improve. History of orchidectomy or orchidopexy, in a later age, by the time the antibodies have already developed, it may not help the patient. The varicocelectomy, if it is not done properly, one may injure or may block the vas deferens. History of torsion, trauma, tumor of the testes may cause sperm antibodies, and the hernia operation done properly may be causing the blockage of the vas deferens. Hydrocele, especially in states like Bihar and UP, where filaris is very common, you find massive hydroceles, and these increase the temperature locally and cause decrease in the sperm count and motility. The surgery may affect these patients. And if the appendicectomy also, sometimes if not done properly, may injure the vas deferens. Then the family history, if there is a cystic fibrosis history, the personal history, if the person is taking sauna bath, steam, or putting on tight underwears, increasing the local temperature, or has got a stressful jobs, irregular eating habits, and too much of smoking, more than 10 cigarettes per day, excess of alcohol, or intake of marijuana or recreational drugs, that history should be taken for them. So finally, once you know that the person is having this thing, how do you confirm it? You do the local, the examination, the general examination, the local examination, and some lab investigations. The physical examination to see if there's an increased body fat, and too much of pubic hair may increase the temperature, if he's not cutting it regularly. See the development of the breast tissue in the male, which may be indication that the estrogen levels are high, which may be the contributing factor for decrease the sperm count. The size of the testes is very important because the basic size of the testes is made by the seminiferous tubules. Whenever there is a testicular germ cell damage, you'll find the testicle size will be reduced. Now, if the damage has happened early in the life, you find that the size is small, that the feel of the testis is firm. But if the damage has happened later on in the life, the size will be less, but the testes will feel rubbery, they will not feel hard. So this is how you can differentiate whether the damage was early in the life or later. Then semen analysis and the culture, and at least 2 semen samples, you should be examining it at least 1 or 2 months apart. Then blood tests for assessing the general health, the viral markers to exclude HIV, etc. Then some hormone tests. Out of that, I think FSH is important to see if the germ cells are there or not, because the high FSH and the low testicle volume means there's a germ cell damage. Prolactin, especially if there is a history of impotence, because hyperprolactinemia may lead the patient into impotence. And thyroid effect may not be that common cause of male factor infertility. The testosterone levels, especially if the testes are small, and in an obese patient, the estradiol levels should be seen, and the testicular estrogen ratio should be seen. And if we are suspecting some abnormality in the chromosomes, then karyotyping should be done to rule out translocation, and Y chromosome deletion test should be done in these patients. The scrotal ultrasound to see if, not only to see if there is any lump in the testes, also to see the vascularity of the testes. Because if it is vascular, even if you had to do the surgical retrieval of the sperms in case even non-obstructive vasospasmia, their success will be more. But if the vasculature of the testis is also damaged, then the possibility of sperm retrieval will be reduced. And look for the varicocele. Varicocele basically should be a clinical diagnosis first. And if you can see it clinically, and if associated sperm morphological and the count is low, then only the varicocele should be treated. Otherwise, many male who are fertile may have varicocele. So all varicocele patients are not infertile, that we should remember. Only when the sperm count is affected or the morphology is affected, that is the time the varicocele should be treated. So the treatment would depend upon the cause of oligosteatoospermia. If there is an infection, you treat the infection with appropriate antibiotics. And the problem with the semen culture is that most of the time the semen is not put into the culture plate immediately. With the result, you may get a normal, there is no infection. But however, if the pus cells are there, you can give empirically antibiotics. So you can start with the linezolid followed by ceftriaxone and then doxycycline in that order. And if there is a hypohypomagnetism, then to improve firstly the testosterone levels and then adding the FSH, you start with the HCG injections followed with the HMD. And antioxidants like vitamin E, vitamin C, glutathione, coenzyme Q10 and L-carnitine will help in some group of patients where the testicular volume is good and the parameters are not very abnormal. Wherever indicated, the surgery should be done, like varicocele, undescended testis, and a hernia operation and a hydrocele operation should be done if it is present. And if there is obstructive vasospasmia, then possibly one may have to do the sperm extraction from the testicles or epididymis and then resort to ICSI. So what is the management of an idiopathic oligosteatoospermia? Now for that we must consider not only the male, we should also consider the female factor and severity of the oligosteatoospermia and what is the previous treatment they have taken. Now if the testicular volume is normal, that means there are germ cells, and if there is no female factor, in those cases where we can give empirical treatment for 3 months, and if the age permits, we can give it for 3 months, and you may find there is an improvement. But if the testicular volume is low or there is associated female factor, then depending upon the seminology, we can resort to ART, whether IUI or IVF or ICSI. Or if there is a severe oligoacidosis, then we should go directly to the ART. And if there are only few motile or immotile sperms which are present, then one has to go for ICSI rather than doing the empirical treatment and wasting time, because that would not help the patient. The second is the motility of the sperms. If more than 10% sperm are actively motile and there is no female factor, we can give them empirical treatment for 3 months, or we can do the IUI for them. But if the motility is less than 10% and there is no female factor again, and if the couple is young and married for 1 or 2 years only, then maybe empirical treatment for 3 months, or otherwise patient would require an ICSI. But if you find there are many times you find that 100% sperms are immotile, the count is okay, but the 100% sperms are immotile. And if you have ruled out other technical reasons, then what you do is you do the vitality test. And if you find that more than 20 to 30% sperms are living sperms, then you do the ICSI for them. But if you find that the vitality is less than 10%, then you may have to resort to surgical retrieval by the TSA and culture these sperms for some time and then use them for the ICSI. Now, the last is that the patient is having the abnormal shape. If the general condition of the patient is okay and or if there is no female factor, one can give the empirical treatment for 3 months, and or one can resort to the intrauterine insemination. But if there is a severe teratozospermia, if the general condition is normal, one can give empirical treatment for 3 months and then go for IUI or ICSI. But if there is a female factor also associated, then possibly it would be better to go for a more active treatment and do ICSI for these patients. So to conclude, every patient who is having a male factor infertility, especially oligoacidosis, we should not only examine the male and treat it, we should also see the female factor or ovarian reserve, etc. Find the cause and treat the cause, and otherwise one may have to go for the assisted reproduction, whether IUI, IVF or ICSI. But many times you may find the patient may not conceive despite all our efforts. Under those circumstances, one may require a donor insemination or donor with IVF, depending upon the female factor. So with that, I conclude that male factor is important. Take a proper history, do local examination, treat the cause, and look into the female factor as well, and then decide what type of treatment you have to give to the patient.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for a very practical tips which you have given how to manage an OATS patient. Sir, I just wish to only talk to you. When you talk of empirical treatment, what do you mean by that?
Sorry, I couldn't. There was echo in your voice, man. For varicose.
When you talk of empirical treatment, what do you mean by that? When you talk of empirical treatment.
Now, if there is a varicocele, it should be a clinically visible varicocele. To diagnose a varicocele, it should be done with the male standing in a warm room, and then you ask firstly have a local examination, and if you find it's easily visible varicocele, then you say, okay, the patient is having varicocele. You see the testicular volume also, and if you find that the testicular volume is also reduced, and you already know that the sperm count was low in this patient, or there was a lot of morphological abnormalities, now this patient will be benefited by varicocele surgery. But if there is a varicocele, but otherwise all this, or there is hardly any varicocele, and only when the patient we do Valsalva, the testicular volume is normal and the semen is affected. Now in these cases, even if we do the varicocele surgery, the patient does not get a benefit of the varicocele surgery. Having said that, after doing the varicocele surgery, we should wait for 3 months to see the effect of the varicocele surgery, because the spermatogenesis takes about 3 months. And we should not expect immediate results after varicocele surgery. We should wait for 3 months and do the semen. And if the semen has improved, then depending upon the parameters, we can advise natural or IUI or IVF or ICSI. But if after 3 months also there is no improvement, then I suppose we should go ahead with the ART rather than wasting more time for these patients. And then the varicocele surgery also, the technique is very important. It should be done by a surgeon who is expert, because many times during the varicocele surgery, unless it is done properly, one may injure the vas deferens. So with the result, the patient was having oligospermia. Now the patient will come to the azoospermia. So it is very important, how it is done, whether laparoscopically, and only the vessels are tied and not the vas deferens by mistake. So that is very important.
I think very important point you have highlighted. Dr. Aruna Saxena, Dr. Tarini, please make your expert comments, madam.
Dr.
I request Archana, Dr. Archana, please introduce the experts.
Dr. Seema, what did you say?
Please choose the experts.
Experts for the oats session?
Yes.
Oats.
Okay.
Yes.
Dr. Aruna Saxena, Dr. Tarini Taneja, Shada ma'am, and
Dr.
and Dr. Sushma Ved. Dr. Sushma is there? Has she joined?
She has joined.
Yes, I'm here.
Ma'am, your comments, please.
I think Dr. Karla Sharma has covered all the things. And regarding varicocele surgery, surgery, varicocele is the only condition where we can have reversal of semen parameters.
Okay, ma'am. Yes, now we can see you, ma'am.
Sir, many times you said that empirical treatment. What do you mean by empirical treatment? And guide us also, about the letrozole use and giving this clomiphene citrate. Very limited use, but where is the use?
Sharma sir, can you hear ma'am's question? Sharma sir?
Madam, question was giving clomiphene.
Yes.
Clomiphene or letrozole?
And letrozole, yeah. Now the thing is, where the clomiphene is indicated, where the letrozole is indicated. Now, as far as the clomiphene is concerned, we can give to the patient who has got an unexplained oats, and and the patient cannot afford the ART treatment. You start with the 25 milligrams per night and give it continuously for 3 months. Now, how it is going to affect is that it will increase the FSH level, and that increase in the FSH level would help in the more spermatogenesis to improve. But this happens only when there is an unexplained type oats. In those cases, giving the clomiphene citrate may help the patient, especially if he cannot afford the ART. Now, as far as the letrozole is concerned, obese male who is having a high, estrogen in comparison to testosterone, because peripheral secretion of conversion of testosterone into estrogen. Now, these males, if they are given letrozole for at least 3 months, you may find, the estrogen levels will fall and the testosterone ratio will improve. Now, these patients will be benefited by letrozole. But if a normal built male may not be benefited by giving letrozole.
Perfect, great.
Dr. Sharma?
You said that if the motility is 10%, or more than 10%, or if it is 10%, then you can go for natural conception or without ART, but I will never dare to do this. I will straightforward go for IVF ICSI.
I agree with you, madam, because now IVF is so easily available.
Yes.
But there will be so many patients who cannot afford. Those are very young, and those, would like to try, even naturally also. So I would not say, oh, no, you cannot conceive spontaneously. You have to go for IVF only, because many times you also have seen, and I have also seen, many senior doctors have seen, even with a lesser count and lesser motility, patients have conceived spontaneously. So we have to see all the situations, the female factor, the economics, the logistics, and then we decide the age of the patient, that whether they should be directed to the IVF directly, or they can be given some empirical treatment for some time, and then if that fails, they go for a ART procedure.
Dr. Sharma, hello.
Yes, ma'am, I can hear.
Dr. Sharma, can DNA fragmentation differentiate which patient should be
I'm talking a little louder.
Ma'am, it's a very too much disturbance. Which patient we should take on the oral ovulogence, or which we should go take directly for the ART? A DNA fragmentation can make.
Yeah, see, the DNA fragmentation we had discussed many times in this forum. It should become a part of a routine semen analysis now, because we know that even if the count is normal, many males may have a DNA fragmentation, which would be the cause of poor quality embryos or early abortions. So the DNA fragmentation, even in a normal semen parameters, is seen nowadays. So with the result, it should become a normal investigation in our armamentarium for the male factor investigation.
And I will go to the extent for this thing that I have followed up these patients, and we have a large number of data. The people who go even for ICSI, the people who have a bad DNA fragmentation, they don't make it even that there also. So I think this is very, very important thing, and it should be done right in the beginning itself.
And it has become very cheap now, and every embryologist can do this, investigation. The DNA fragmentation can be done in any IVF lab now.
Colonel Sharma, we can do DNA fragmentation in a routine way, but during ICSI, we cannot judge which sperm is damaged with the DNA fragmentation or not. So for all practical purposes, it does not help that much. But it will help in an IVF, conventional IVF, where natural selection of sperm is there.
I agree with that, madam, because once you have diagnosed DNA fragmentation more than 30%, so your aim should be to decrease it less than 30% before you go for ART if the time permits. So 2 to 3 months of treatment of antioxidants and all, we have changed the DNA fragmentation percentage, and we have seen there is an improvement by giving this antioxidants and the change in the lifestyle, etc. Now, if that patient is going for IVF or ICSI, yes, I agree with you. You cannot, looking at the sperm, say that this, but definitely if the person was having 50% DNA fragmentation, and if you have improved it to 20%, even if I am doing ICSI, the probability of getting a normal sperm will be more, rather than having 50 to 60% DNA fragmentation and then doing ICSI.
I fully agree with you, sir.
So can I ask one question?
Madam?
So can I ask one question?
Yes, ma'am.
So here, when we are talking of raised DFI levels, so in such cases, do you recommend adding things like PIXI or adding things like MAG? Do you feel that will improve the chances, the final success rate or the embryo quality?
No, see, the thing is, there is not a one single factor which can improve or spoil the case. So we have to have a composite treatment. We start with the lifestyle changes, with the eating habits, the sleeping habits, and then we improve the DNA fragmentation. Then further improve on that, you can do PIXI to select more healthy sperms from there. And then if you have the facility for the magnification of the sperms to see for the vacuoles in the head, and you do that also, and then you do the PGS also, and and then you do the what do you call that, the laser hatching also. But whatever you may do, you will never get 100% pregnancy. That much I can assure you.
But sir,
All these factors.
I want to tell you that Pixie has not been accepted.
Madam?
Pixie has not been accepted by all.
Yeah.
And it is easy to do. It is a very hard job. So worldwide, it is not accepted.
Yeah. The thing is,
sir,
as I said, you don't go by one that if I add Pixie, so my success rate will, go skyrocketing. It will not happen. So this is what I want to say. All these things may contribute in selected group of patients to 1 or 2% increase, but it will not make a very marked change in your success rate. And that too, if you're doing it regularly, it's not that, okay, today I've decided to Pixie for this patient because it had failed other centers, I do Pixie and I'm expecting this in my center she'll become pregnant. No. If you're doing some investigation, some procedure routinely, you gain more confidence, you get more experience. And then like Dr. Sushma may look at the sperm and see the egg and say, looking at the embryo, yes, this embryo will become, implant or not. Because that comes with experience. So any advancement which is occurring in our field, it has to be done repeatedly to get, the best out of that advancement.
good afternoon, sir. Can I make a comment?
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, if we have a very bad semen parameters, we do expect poor DFI. So a very simple way of finding the sperm with reduced DFI is that you take 2 samples, maybe after 1 hour difference. Though in second sample, the DFI will be less. Another point is that because we know these sperms are already damaged, we can use the technique which causes this damage to sperm by rotation. So maybe, which doctor was asking, maybe MAC is a better technique for sperm preparation in these cases.
Yeah, the thing is...
Can be prepared by microfluidic system.
Yes, microfluidics, yes. Yeah, can be a better system.
I agree with you, but the thing is, if the count is very low,
Yeah.
you're talking about the oats. So
Yes,
you
sir.
need to be able to, get enough number of sperms by MAC also.
Yes, sir,
So
that's
one
correct.
has to, so every patient may not be benefited by that.
Yes, sir.
So you have to have certain number of sperms to, for the MAC to be successful.
Right, sir.
Now, the thing is, the patient having the DFI and we want to do the newer techniques and all. But I suppose when we have seen the beginning, the treatment should start there and then the counseling about the lifestyle, about the feeding food habits and about the drinking habits, smoking habits. All these things should be taken and, dealt with. Then all of them will contribute for a better success.
So I find, this when the DFI is very high, in such cases, we should take a very clearly, now this is your diet, this is what your exercises, this is what you आपने सोच करनी है, ये meditation करना, इस तरह से आपने detox करना, it works. It works.
Definitely. DFI is one thing which is treatable. If you, there was one paper where they found that the woman, the young woman's egg has got a potential to repair the male's DNA damage also. So, that is another, pro-woman dialogue I want to make it. The woman has got a capacity to correct their husbands also. Their DNA, which has been damaged.
All the time.
Dr. Sharma?
Yes, ma'am.
Hello?
Dr. Shalini, you want to make any comment? Dr. Malik,
Yes.
Dr.
Yeah.
Arshia?
Dr. Sharma, it was really excellent presentation as ever. But I just wanted to know, like, suppose if one patient is having the diagnosed with the OAT, so how long we should wait? How long we can treat him with the oral ovulogens?
The thing is, how long we are going to wait will depend upon the ovarian reserve of the woman, age of the woman, and the associated, factors. If she's having fallopian tube obstruction, which is not treatable, definitely you'll go to the ART directly rather than
only sir for the male on the respect of the male partner. Suppose patient is okay, young patient, and she can wait. Ovarian reserve is okay. So how long we can treat the male partner with the oral ovulogens?
Now, thing is, as far as the male partner is concerned, at least 3 months of treatment should be given
Okay.
Because we know that the spermatogenesis takes about 70 days. So any decision before that will be too early a decision. So 70 days of correct treatment, I would say. Not that, like, as I mentioned in my beginning of lecture, the person was having a fungal infection of the scrotum, and his scrotum had become so thick. So you keep on giving antibiotics, you keep on giving all the cell carnitine and CoQ and antioxidants, they will not work. So one has to take history, examination, and see all the parameters, investigations, and give the composite treatment. And then wait for 3 months, and you'll find there will be a change. Otherwise, see, I may be firing in the wrong direction and expecting the result. That doesn't work.
Sir, what about the antioxidants? They are becoming so expensive now these days that you must sell something.
So,
I couldn't hear properly. There are a lot of echoes in Madam's voice here.
Doctor, what about the antioxidants? Now they become so expensive for an ordinary people to take, as far as the male antioxidants are concerned.
Yeah, the thing is, there are a lot of diets, the natural oxidants which are present. Firstly, we should promote those. The patient should take green leafy vegetables, they should take citrus fruits, they should take almonds, they should take, because that will help in the better fats in the body. And secondly, the tomatoes which are available, or colored fruits and vegetables, they should be promoted more. And the berries there, the blueberries and all, which are having high antioxidants. And besides the diet, as you had already mentioned about the yoga, meditation, and all and pranayam especially, that also helps these patients. And along with that, you can give antioxidants, like a lot of companies having a combination of antioxidants. Now, the melatonin is now is the new word which is there for both male and the female. So if I tell them you sleep nicely and you should sleep with a dark room, and I think that they'll produce enough melatonin in the night only. So otherwise, giving them the CoQ and giving them selenium, giving them vitamin C, vitamin E, and all these things help. But firstly, I think we should try more natural things rather than giving them only the medicines.
Also, like turmeric, cinnamon, and flaxseed, turmeric, cinnamon, and flaxseed also being promoted these days.
Yeah.
For the well-being, for natural therapy.